Does anybody remember the 70s? Thanks. Well, you know, I have a few gaps I'd like to fill in. So, I'm 60. Five. So I must have been there. And dozens of people have confirmed Charlie Ammen sightings from that time, and they've even documented them. In fact, some a lot more than I would have cared that they did. But I do have photographs, and I believe, you know, just conjecturing here, that I may have been some sort of chemist, because in a lot of the photographs, I'm holding this long cylindrical beaker with smoke coming out of it. So I probably into a little R&D, I guess. Well, actually, the 70s ended for me on the first week of January of 1981. It takes a second, yeah. Actually, the actual end of the decade kind of eluded me, you know, because on this New Year's Eve 1979, I was busy getting kicked out of Bennigan's for throwing firecrackers under people's tables. Thing I did. I was living in Boulder, Colorado. Good place for things to end. And I was going out that night. Going out to meet my friends for a reggae concert on the mezzanine of the Boulderado Hotel. And we knew this guy, this reggae artist, he was local, he was the real deal. Because even though he was an albino with blue eyes and blonde dreadlocks, he had every album Bob Marley ever made, smoked a lot of ganja, and his parents had taken him on vacation when he was 8 to the Virgin Islands, and that was enough for us. So I get ready, you know, put on my fashionable designer jeans, nice shirt, nice sports coat, and do my usual pre-going out ritual, you know, half a bottle of Merlot. I was a connoisseur. I used a glass. And I got one toke over the line, as they say in the song. And I went out, and I got to the mezzanine of the Boulderado Hotel, and it was incredibly crowded. Tables that normally would sit 4 people had 12 people at them. Every table was overpacked. It was beyond the fire regulations. People were standing everywhere, and my friends had saved me a seat. And so I had a seat at a table. Now, the management had looked at this situation and decided, since it was a huge crowd, and they were raucous, and they had a good chance of mayhem. There was a good chance of mayhem, yeah. So the management thought, well, there's 2 things. A, the waitresses are going to have trouble keeping up with the orders. And 2, there's a good chance of mayhem. And so in order to facilitate the waitresses and prevent any sort of broken glass, we're going to serve any drink you order in a large plastic tumbler. That ought to keep things under control. And myself, you know, having been known as someone who was always promoted the working girl, I thought, well, I'll help the waitress out even further. I will order 3 large tumblers of the house red at a time. Because, as James Cagney once said in an old movie, that's the kind of hatpin I am. So I got 3 large tumblers, and I just downed them, and I'm on my second trio there, and everybody's howling, and the guy next to me pats me on the knee, and I look down, and he opens his hand, and there, and some of you may recognize this, you don't have to admit to it if you don't want to, a little brown glass vial with a... Someone just started having a runny nose. And there was what we used to call in there Peruvian marching powder, and a little lid and a little chain with a spoon hanging off of it. And I said, okay, and passed it around, and went around a couple of times. Now I'm on the 3rd trio of plastic tumblers of house red. And the vial has gone around 3 times, so I am as cognizant as I could possibly be. My logic is irrefutable. I know where I am. I know who I am. If I had a pencil, I would write down the meaning of life. So I said to the guy, I said, hey, that's great stuff. He said, well, $50. And he opened up his fanny pack. Remember them? Yeah. We never wore them on our fannies, though. We couldn't call them crotch packs, so. He opens it up, and it is packed to the brim with these little brown vials, ready to go. 0.5 gram in the vial with a spoon hanging off the lid. And I said, well, I just bought a lot of wine. I don't have the $50. And he said, I know you. You work at the head shop across from campus. I know you're good for it. You can pay me tomorrow. Mistake number 1. So I said, okay. And I shared it, sent it around the table a couple of times. Came back, and there was just enough for maybe 3 little spoons. So I said, well, pulled back my sports jacket and dropped it in my pocket. I said, I'll save this for a nightcap when I get home. And then, exercising my irrefutable logic and my extremely clear cognizance of things, I looked at my watch, and it was almost midnight. Meanwhile, I think he was called Rasta Todd, was singing something that sounded like pajamas. I hope you wear pajamas too. I don't know. So I said to myself, gee, it's almost midnight and I have to go to work tomorrow. Maybe I should go home and get some sleep. Well, if any of you have done what I just described, you know that wasn't going to happen. You go home, you get out of your clothes, and you lay there and you close your eyes and go, yep, sleeping now. Yes, sir. Having a dream. Boy, am I relaxed. Get those howdy-doody jaws, you know. So I drove home. And on the route I had to take, I came down my street. And the way I came down, my apartment house would come up across the street from me. But there was a break in the median strip right there where the parking lot for my apartment house was, and a little left turn lane, very convenient. So I get to the break and I go in the left turn lane, put in the left signal, and there's a car coming, and the car stops. It's coming the other way, and the person flips the brights up and down. And I said, isn't that nice? The guy's going to let me do my turn. So I whip my little Huey and go right into the parking lot, and he comes right in behind me. Red and blue lights are flashing. And I think to myself, I live here. What could possibly be wrong? I think if I just keep this light and exercise my natural charisma, I'll just charm him in and we'll have a little chat and it'll all be over. So the first thing I did was I think I'll disarm him by approaching him first. So I got out of my car and I walked over to the squad car and I stick my head in the window. And there was G.I. Joe. I swear to God, square jaw, I think a little hint of a scar down this side, and a crew cut. And right next to him in the passenger seat was Barney Fife. Barney was doing some on-the-job training. And I said what I perceived to be, "Good evening, officer. What seems to be the trouble?" But what was probably actually something like, "Hey." What's going on? He was not receptive to my charisma. He said, "Please get back in your car, sir." And he came up to my car and he asked for the usual, and he takes it, he checks it, and he brings it back, and he says, "You know why I stopped you?" Again, I believe I said, "Why, gosh, officer, I have no idea." But what I actually probably said was, "Oh." He said, "You were driving with only your parking lights on." And I laughed. Because I was keeping it light, I was disarming him. And oh, gosh. And he says, "I smell a little alcohol there, Mr. Ammen. Have you been drinking?" And I said, "Well, I've had a couple of glasses of wine." He says, "Well, we're gonna have to give you the roadside maneuvers, I think." And I said something like, "That's what she said." And he gets me out of the car, and he gets Barney out, because Barney's got to watch this, And I almost said, "Hey, Barney, you got your bullet in your pocket?" But I decided against that. And the first thing he says is, "Okay, the first thing we're going to do is you're going to close your eyes and lean your head back like this, put your hands out like this, and extend your your pointer finger and touch your nose." Now, I don't know if you've all noticed this, but let me give you a quick profile. You getting it? There's not enough cocaine and alcohol in the world to disable me to the point where I couldn't hit that. So I passed the nose test right away. Boom. And then he said, "Okay, I want you to stand on one foot." Well, I don't know if you remember, when I was a kid, sometimes these cowboy stars like Gene Autry and Roy Rogers, they'd come around and they'd do Wild West shows with their horse, and horse would do tricks, and they go, "Trigger's going to do some math for you." "What's 2 and 2, Trigger?" And Trigger go. Well, that was what happened when I tried to stand on one foot. I was like, And then I looked at him and I went, and he goes, well, Mr. Ammen, I believe you're drunk. We're going to have to take you in. He whips me around and handcuffs my hands behind my back. Barney's taking all this in. And he says, I'm going to have to pat you down. Mm-hmm. You know, for the first time in my life, the address on my driver's license was the same place where we were. All I would have had to do was throw it under the car seat. But no, I was going to charisma my way out of it. So he pats me down here, and he pats down my jacket, and he opens up my jacket, and he pats down my shirt, and uh-oh. And he pulls out the little brown vial, and he puts it right in my face. Barney's looking at his feet. There was some kind of music playing, I think. He puts it right in my face, and he says, is this cocaine? And I say, I don't know. In this town, you never know what you're getting. So he throws me in the back of the car and he says, if you have any other illicit items on you, don't try to get rid of them. And I said, well, you got my hands cuffed behind my back, and so unless they're up my ass, I don't think I can get to them. At this point, Barney, I heard Barney go, dude. Ooh. Take me down to the jailhouse. I don't know what I was expecting. I'd never been arrested before, but I expected some kind of TV movie idea of this very serious process, and people getting fingerprinted and having their picture taken. And it was like a social club. Everybody knew everybody by their first name. The cops, the people getting arrested, everybody would say, hey, Joe, what'd they get you for tonight? And hi, Fred, try to make me look better in this picture. And it's like these people had a social club based on getting arrested. And they never saw each other except when they got arrested. And I was a little taken aback by that. And they threw me in a holding cell. So now we're going to fast forward to what happened, and then I'll come back. The next day, they released me on my own recognizance because my girlfriend, who worked in Boulder County Social Services counseling at-risk teenagers, and who, by the way, could snort and drink me under the table any old day, had put in a word for me. So they released me on my own recognizance. They set a court date for 2 months. I called up my gangster, drug-dealing, sleazy friends, and I said, I need a lawyer. They said, call this number. Guy's name is Tommy. Call up Tommy. Tommy asked me 3 questions. You got a job? Have been arrested before? How much coke was it? I told him. He says, all right. When's your court date? I tell him. He says, okay, meet me at the front of that courtroom door 15 minutes before your time. Bring $1,000 cash. Okay. So I show up. Now, even though, of course, and Tommy did talk like that because, as you probably know, nobody that lives in Boulder is actually from there. And there he is. I think I was expecting Matlock. But I got my cousin Vinny. There's Tommy. He's got a little cheap suit on. He's got his little briefcase, and he's smoking a cigarette. He's moving like this. And he says, hey, I'm Tommy. How you doing? I said, I'm doing fine. You got $1,000? Got $1,000? I asked for 3 freaking tons. You got $1,000? Yeah, here. Okay, let's go in. We go in the court. And I expected something, I don't know, from the movies, you know, along the lines of Perry Mason or something. And it's like the bailiff, my time comes. Tommy never opened a briefcase. He didn't have any papers or anything. And the bailiff is going, I could hardly understand the bailiff. He said, I was like, history versus accountable. And I said, okay. And the judge says, I see you're represented by counsel. How you doing, Tommy? Tommy goes, how you doing, Judge Brown? He says, Judge, considering the fact that my client, A, had a steady job for several years, 2, has never been arrested, and 3, it was such a small amount, and before he could finish that, and like I said, he didn't have papers or anything, he was just rattling this off, and it was such a small amount, and the judge said, of substance that he should be given probation without conviction, boom, see the DA in room 102 for the conditions of your probation. Just like that, 5 minutes. He was running them through, like, you know what, through a goose. I go to room 102, I shake Tommy's hand, thanks a lot. Tommy goes, yeah, great, we'll get together next week and get wasted. Okay, well, I just paid you $1,000, so it's going to be on you. By the way, I still had to pay the $50 for the half gram. I don't know where that... I go in the room, and there's 5 other people in there, and there's a very tired, cynical-looking assistant DA. There were so many people going through that system with the same MO. They had a job, they'd never been arrested, small amount of drugs, that they were giving out the conditions of your probation without conviction to 6 people at a time. And so we line up, and he gives us each 12 forms. And he says, okay, you're on probation for 1 year without conviction. These are your reports on yourself. Conditions of your probation are you see a therapist once a week, once a month. You fill out this report telling your probation officer how you're doing. His name and address and phone number is on the front. You tell him you're doing fine. You staple your receipts for mental health to that, and you mail it in for once a month for the next year. Don't call him. He's too busy. And so that went on, and it was okay. I snorted more coke than ever before, but I was very careful about whether or not I had it on me. All right, back to the holding cell. They released, finally, after 4 or 5 hours, it's like 4:30 in the morning, they come and get me. They take my clothes, they give me green jail pajamas and little black paper slippers because there was someone evil in the parking lot. And they take me to this little area. Now, it's like a little box. And there's a glass wall on either side of me, and there's a glass door in front of me and a glass door behind me. And you go out either glass door, and you go downstairs to the cells. And the lights are only on there. The lights are off everywhere else because it's 4:30 in the morning. So everything is reflected just like a mirror. And the cop says, drop your pants around your ankles and spread them. We're going to do a cavity search. I'm sure you can envision that, so I'm not going to. Because there'll be more than something evil in the parking lot if that happens. So I'm doing that, and I'm still trying to keep it light, you know. But I'm not saying anything to anybody because it's a tough room. So I'm like this, and he's, you know, and the first thing that ran through my mind was, oh, we have made some poor choices, haven't we? Yes, we have. And the next thought that went through my mind was, I wonder if I open my mouth, will the light come out? And then I looked up, and I'm looking in the glass, and I see a perfectly reflected tableau of Mrs. Ammen's baby boy, who she had such high hopes for, with a policeman looking up his hiney with a flashlight. And you know what? For the life of me, I could no longer keep it light. Thanks for listening.